Well, how about that, Rube? We thought even if the Eagles win this game, it's going to be a close one, another nail biter, and it's not. 28-3, a final score at MetLife Stadium. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan. Rube, what do you make of this game?
It's a long time coming. Like you said, it's been almost a year since they really played well in all three phases, and you left the game thinking, you know what, they look like a really good football team. And you know, you take into account who they were playing, and it's not a very good team. I thought Deshaun Watson was the worst quarterback I've ever seen. Daniel Jones is worse. I mean, he was just. We'll talk about that, but yeah, it was just really encouraging to see them play well in all phases and put a team away. And you know, they haven't done that. They really haven't done that. I mean, they were 10-1 last year, and they won some of those games by double digits. But as far as just kind of winning a laugher, it was really 2022. I mean, you have to go back to 2022 to find a game that you could just kind of Eagles fans could just kind of sit back and relax and enjoy the second half without feeling any stress. So it's taken a while to get there, but it's really encouraging that they did.
Yeah, it was a big step forward. You're right. It was a complete team effort. Obviously, got off to a slow start offensively in the first quarter. Again, they continue to struggle with slow starts, but they really picked it up after that. Didn't need to throw the football a whole heck of a lot in this game. They ran the ball pretty effectively.
4 times in the second half.
Yeah, and then defense, I mean, they didn't give up a touchdown for the second straight week, just 3 points on the board. Look, you're right. Like, you have to take into account the competition, but they played who they played and they played them well. So it's not like maybe it doesn't change our outlook over the entire season, but in this particular week, they did exactly what you thought they should do. And something I honestly didn't think they were going to.
Yeah, well, I sure didn't, because I think I picked the Giants to win 23-20. I just didn't have faith in the Eagles. I thought the Eagles were more talented, but we've seen them be more talented and just play really poorly. I mean, it's been a stretch of games, you know, like the last 7 games last year and the first 5 this year, where they just either lost or won in kind of disappointing fashion. It's good to win, but there were wins where you were like, wow, they won. But so to put up a 28-3, and obviously, I mean, they could have scored a lot more than they took the starters out after, I think, early in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, there was 10 minutes and 32 seconds left when they pulled their offensive starters.
Yeah, so, you know, and then to do it without Mulata, without Goddard, is certainly important to win shorthanded a little bit. And I thought there were some good adjustments. Obviously, JAlen had trouble with their pass rush. A lot of people do, but they kind of worked through that. So, I mean, we do our grades after the game, and you do yours for the website. I mean, I just went A's across the board. I don't really have anything to complain about after this one.
I mean, we can be nitpicky here and there, but I mean, overall, they just played a really good game, a really complete game. Let's break it down a little bit. We'll start with the offense, and then we'll get into defense and special teams in a little bit. Obviously, the big story in this game is Saquon Barkley comes back to MetLife Stadium, ends up going 17 carries, 176 yards, and a touchdown. He had a couple of catches for 11 yards, but man, he was running hard. And even like early on when he was getting bottled up a little bit, you felt like he's running so hard. There was that early catch where he just bowled over Dane Belton, and you're thinking, okay, they got to keep feeding this guy. He wants it. And then he goes off for 176 yards, just a little shy of his career best. But this was the best game he's ever had at MetLife Stadium.
Yeah, it was crazy, isn't it? His first game as an Eagle at MetLife. I heard it's the second most yards ever by a player against his former team. Cedric Benson, who started out with the Bears in 2009, playing for the Bengals, had 189 yards and a touchdown against his former team. So that's kind of a cool note. I thought he handled the week really well. AJ was funny. AJ was saying, "Oh yeah, he's going to say he wasn't thinking about it, but he was." But
and
yeah,
we knew that, right? Like,
yeah,
even when he talked about, like, it's impossible from a human side to not care about it. And then look, when he gets booed in this stadium, where he he put up incredible numbers on awful teams, and then to get booed here, it had to give him a little extra motivation.
Yeah, and it's stupid too, because I mean, Giants fans should be cheering Saquon Barkley for what he was their only good player for like 5 years. And the front office they're the ones that messed this up. He would have been happy to stay if the money was right. And they didn't think he was going to leave. They just misplayed it every step of the way. Fortunately for the Eagles, I don't know why they would boo Saquon. He's not the one who caused this. But be that as it may, to your point a minute ago, I thought his most impressive run today was that touchdown, because there's nowhere. He had no room, and there was nowhere to run. And there's Dexter Lawrence right in front of him, and Azeez Ola. They had 5 guys between Saquon and the end zone, and he just kept moving his legs, and he kept moving forward like inch by inch. And I don't know how he did it. It was like a 55-yarder and the 41. Those are really exciting plays. But that touchdown, and then Lane got behind him, and it kind of turned into like a kind of sort of tush push, just because the way the play developed, it took a while. So Lane got behind him, and I think Cam got behind him. Landon was in there, but that touchdown was incredible. And I think he had a chance. There was literally no running room. He's pushing half a ton of humanity into the end zone with him. It was really incredible. And you just don't see running backs with that combination of speed. What was he up to? 22 miles an hour on the 55-yarder?
Yeah, I saw that next gen stat. Apparently the fastest time he's ever been recorded.
Yeah.
Is that right? That's crazy.
Yeah. So he
and then you're right, though, to have like those types of runs, and then the hard runs, and then the elusive runs, like the spin move was working for him in this game. Like all of that together makes him such an incredible player.
Yeah. There's not many backs that I've ever seen who have that combination of pure speed and power, and just running ferocious and violently. Most fast guys, they just want to kind of, run fast and get out of bounds. Not this guy. It's why he's one of the best. And
most fast guys aren't this big.
That too. One quick stat. He's only the 7th. You probably have this. Only the 7th back in history with 6 yards a carry, 600 rushing yards, and 5 touchdowns after 6 games. And the other ones are Jim Taylor, Jim Brown, OJ, Terrell Davis, Jamal Lewis, and AP. So 5 I'm sorry?
Pretty good company there.
Yeah, they're all Hall of Famers, except, Jamal Lewis should be, and AP will be. But he's off to one of the greatest starts ever. And what idiots are the Giants? To let this guy go.
He's a great player. He'd be wasted on this Giants team right now.
Yeah, there's no question about it. But if you're the Giants, you're not thinking like that. You're thinking, this guy sells a ton of jerseys and he's really popular. He's our only good player. Maybe we should keep him around. Well,
it's funny you say all that, because there's a good chance I get booted at some point during this podcast. I'm actually in John Mara's box. So I didn't know that. And then I found that out later. I picked the door and I walked in the door, but it's funny that I'm in here right now, because during the game I was thinking, what is going through the owner's mind? Like, sure. He already talked about this on national TV, that it would be, we'd have some sleepless nights if Saquon went to the Eagles. This was the exact nightmare scenario at MetLife Stadium, full of Giants fans ready to boo Saquon, and he comes out here and just destroys his former team. That is, like, to the script, a nightmare for John Mara.
Yeah, it was like out of some corny, 1980s, like high school sports movie. Like, you couldn't script it any better. And it was funny, after the 55-yarders, like, they had a close-up of Saquon. He's just smiling. He's like laughing. It's like, this is so perfect. And he's you couldn't have written it any better. And but it's not just today. I like the way he rebounded after a bad game last week. And I like the way that Kellen just kind of reminded me of Shane Steichen, how he just kept feeding him. And, a lot of coaches, they're going to get too fancy. All right, we had a couple good runs. Let's throw it. Second half, I think it was 29 running plays and 4 pass plays. Now, some of those were Shipley at the end. Some were Gainwell, who had a nice game, and a couple of Jalen's. But Jalen threw 4 passes in the second half. And I just like the fact that Kellen Moore just, you know what? I don't care about this game plan, this fancy play call sheet. We're just going to keep hammering the run. They can't stop it. Let's just keep doing it. And that's what Shane Steichen would do. It's one of the things that made him, I think, such a good coordinator.
Yeah, and it was brilliant in this game because they get a lead, so it's already like, okay, now you should try to kill some clock, but you're down two of your starting offensive linemen early in the game. The pressure was getting to Jalen.
Yeah.
Running the football is a great way to neutralize the pass rush, and that's what they did in this one. And they still couldn't completely stop Dexter Lawrence. He is a freak, but it made a lot of sense in this game, and I thought the game script, the way it went, really kind of leaned in, like it helped them lean into it a little bit. Getting a lead in any game is going to help you, but I feel like this team has the personnel to really be good front runners, and they haven't been able to do it very much.
Yeah, for a long, long time. And you could just see the Giants wearing down. The Eagles had the ball for 19 minutes and 42 seconds in the second half. So that's not easy on any defense. And first half was pretty close in time of possession, but you could see the Giants wearing down, and they didn't want any part of Saquon. They were probably so thrilled when they saw Kenny Gainwell lining up in the last 10 minutes of the game. And he's a good back, but I mean, Saquon was just inflicting damage on the Giants' defensive players and enjoying it. And I don't blame him.
Yeah, very cool too. By the way, Nick Sirianni said that like he was going back and forth on what to do because Saquon was so close to his record, and everyone knew it. But Saquon was all on board with getting out of the game and letting his other teammates touch the football. I think it says a lot about him, and it made the head coach's job a lot easier.
Yeah, the quote from Nick about was that Saquon said, "Let's let the other guys eat." I think. Yeah, that was really cool. And they finished with 270 rushing yards, so they had almost 100 other than Saquon's rushing yards. So it's the most rushing yards they've had in a road game in 24 years. Yeah. The last 3 times they had 250 rushing yards was against the Giants, which tells you a lot about both teams. But look, it made Barrett happy. He was screaming and carrying on, and he thinks every game should be like this. But it was really good to see them just take command and build on it. They've had big leads before. I mean, they were up 10 last week, and you think about the Arizona game. There's just so many examples of this team building a lead and then just falling to pieces. So to see him build on it, and next thing you know, you see 28-3 on the scoreboard. It was a long time coming.
Yeah. You mentioned Kenny Gainwell. He had 13 carries for 56 yards, had some really nice runs in there. Yeah. Kenny Gainwell's a nice change of pace. And I think he's a really nice complement to Saquon. Kind of different style runners, but I thought Kenny Gainwell definitely did some nice things in this game. JAlen had some big runs. There was one incredible play where he somehow avoids the pressure, scrambles for a big gain. Then he had the
was the one where he stood in the pocket for like 12 seconds and then just took off.
Mm-hmm. And then he had the big first down run, or to pick up the first down, I should say, where he had to kind of run over some people.
Yeah.
I thought he only threw 14 passes today?
14, 10 in the first half, 4 in the second half. Yeah.
I mean, that's not going to be an every week thing. And it was funny. There was even a comical moment with AJ Brown where he was asked about that. He said, well, it's good. I mean, I'd maybe like a few more passes, but they're happy with the win. But Jalen talked about being able to win in different ways. And I think that's important because you never know how a game is going to play out. And, if they have a game where they need to throw it, they probably can. If they have a game where they need to run it, they probably can. That's when things are working well. I mean, that's the way this whole thing is designed right now.
Yeah, and I don't think there's a lot of offenses that have this kind of star power both in the running game and in the passing game, and that makes them really dangerous. And I mean, to me, they should be scoring 30 points a game. I think they're 27.3 in the 3 games that AJ's played and 17.3 in the 3 games he didn't play. I'm not sure it's all related to him, but a lot of it is. A lot of it is. I still think they're going to be a 30 points per game offense by the time the year's over. I mean, and just the big plays they're hitting. They got 10 40-yard plays already this year in 6 games. They only had 8 last year in 17 games. So those are momentum changers. They flip the field. They take the heart out of a defense. Those are such big plays. Goddard's got 2 40-yarders. Devontae has 1. AJ has 2, and Saquon has 3. Running the ball. I mean, he's a threat to hit a home run every time he touches the ball. It's fun to watch.
My favorite Saquon stat from today is last year, his long run was 36 yards. He had 3 runs longer than that today.
That's incredible.
Right? I mean, that's pretty insane. He played a full season pretty much last year.
Yeah, he did. I think he missed, 3 games?
Mm-hmm.
My favorite stat from today was that he outgained the Giants, 187 to 117. So he outgained his former team by like 80 yards.
You mentioned the A.J. Brown chunk play.
Yeah.
What a gutsy call that was. And I was not a fan of the play they used to, same play basically, they used to ice the game last week. I thought in the situation, it was just like the too low percentage of a play to run there. It worked, but I said, I don't like the process there. Now it's 4th and 3, and they throw it up to AJ. I mean, I guess it's not a low percentage play when he's out there.
Yeah. He's so good.
And the Giants were clearly playing to the sticks there. And it gave him a one-on-one deep. And honestly, that's Jalen's best ball is that 9 route. He can just loft it in there. So maybe it seems so counterintuitive to run that play in that situation, but given their strengths, like maybe it's not that crazy.
Yeah. Hey, what was my stat I sent you? It's just kind of amazing. Eagles have had 2 4th down touchdown passes of at least 40 yards in the last 20 years. Both were exactly 41 yards. Both were thrown by Jalen Hurts. Both were against the Giants. Both were at MetLife Stadium, and both gave the Eagles a 13-0 lead. The one 2 years ago was to Devontae. But, I didn't mind it. I like it. I don't know. They scored – they had 2 touchdowns on 4th down and another 4th down conversion that led to a touchdown. If there's something to be said for just putting a team away.
Yeah. They weren't good on 3rd down today, and it didn't matter because they were aggressive and they went for it on 4th down. And as much flack as we give Nick, I mean, he has made some aggressive calls to go for it. And this was a game where it made sense. I couldn't believe the Giants kicked that field goal late in the first half. Like, what in the heck are you doing, Brian Daboll?
That was idiotic. That was grounds for firing. I think I said, what are you doing? It's like, well, we wanted to get some points.
Who cares? Try to win. Like, you're in the football game at that point.
Field goals in that situation guarantee you're going to lose.
Yeah, you're down 14-0. So now you're down 14-3. I guess it helped them not get shut out, but like, I don't know, man. That's a weird call. And it's a call I could never see an Eagles head coach making, because if they started making calls like that, they wouldn't be around very long.
Yeah, it was terrible. That's why they're the Giants.
Mm-hmm. Let's kind of go through the position groups on offense. We talked about running back, quarterback. I thought he missed some plays, Jalen, but he made some big throws too. That throw to AJ is about as good as it gets. Maybe his best throw of the year.
Yeah.
The throw to Grant Calcaterra across the field on that kind of crosser. I mean, that's a perfect ball. I thought there were some moments where he started seeing ghosts a little bit because he had some pressure in his lap, but overall, like, he held up okay. I didn't think it was his best game, but he was clean again, didn't turn the football over.
And for me, that's the biggest thing with him, because, I mean, what are they? I have, 19-6 when he doesn't turn the ball over in his career as a starter. So, I mean, his numbers he doesn't have to be Superman. Something clicked for him during the bye week, and he did a lot of self-scouting, and, he made a kind of a reference to not forcing the ball. And I think that's one thing that we've seen different in Jalen since the bye, these 2 games. He's not forcing it, and he's letting the game come to him, and that's resulting in clean games. It's the first time he's had back-to-back games with no turnover since the postseason, the first 2 playoff games in 22. So, look, it doesn't guarantee if he doesn't turn it over, and it doesn't mean don't be aggressive, but if he's smart and careful with the ball and doesn't force things and doesn't turn the ball over, they win 80% of the time. And there's other factors, obviously, but it's just huge for your quarterback to, it's not about throwing for 300 yards or, completing 25. It's about being smart, efficient, and mistake-free. And he's done that 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, look, and there are going to be games where he needs to make big plays and he needs to throw for a bunch of yards. Just like the script will dictate that. But this was not one of those games. This was a play clean football. The team you're playing is an inferior opponent. You can't give them extra chances and keep them in the game. And he didn't do that.
Yeah, it was good to see. It's been
we
a
talked
while.
About running back. We talked about AJ. Devontae Smith, a quiet game, 1 catch for -2 yards, a weird stat line. They didn't throw the football that much.
Yeah, he'll get his chances.
Didn't love that the only pass that went to Jahan Dotson was a back shoulder and the timing was off. it looked like he was trying. I don't know if he comes back for that a little harder. Maybe he gets the call.
And I mean, he also it should have been DPI from what I saw. I never saw a replay, but it looked like the guy pulled his arm down.
Yeah, I think if he comes back to that ball harder, he gets that call.
Yeah,
I thought some of that he controlled, but they weren't asked to do a bunch. The tight ends, I think it was just one target, one catch for Grant Calcaterra, who is still quite a work in progress as a blocker. I think that's that. They missed Dallas Goedert in the receiving game, but man, they missed him as a blocker. I know you don't want to get you don't want to overdo the Jack Stoll's out there to block, Grant Calcaterra's out there to catch passes, but maybe you need to do that.
Yeah. It's, and you would hope that he would have made more progress by now in year 3, and he works on it. I know he works a lot on it, but just physically, it's just not what he's built for.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some rough moments when he's asked to block. I thought the offensive line, all things considered, played pretty well. Fred Johnson early had some struggles that we talked about that matchup coming in. Him against Brian Burns was one to circle. And it was Brian Burns was giving him fits early. Dexter Lawrence is Dexter Lawrence. There was one play he put Cam Jurgens on ice skates and he just kind of tipped your cap. There aren't many nose tackles in the NFL who can do that.
He's incredible. I mean, he's so dominating, and it's a shame he's on that team. And then, once you're able to start running the ball, you neutralize a lot of that stuff. And I mean, if I'm JAlen or I'm an offensive lineman, that's like the best thing that could happen is just, hey, we're just going to run it every snap. I think that last scoring drive, 10 plays are all running plays.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and we saw that a few times. It was like the whole drive is just running. Early on, we did see some play action, which I like. I think, all the extremes of this offense that bother people, whether it's the motion or the under center or the play action, to me, the play action is the one that like, absolutely, there's no excuse for not using it. It's as close as you get to an easy button in the NFL as there is. And there's no reason this team shouldn't be better at it. So it was nice to see them use a little bit of that early in this game. I think that's going to be something that is worth monitoring over the next few weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to keep seeing that, but when you never throw, like in the second half, you're not going to see much of anything in the passing game, but
more Ben Van Sumeren in there at fullback.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
I don't have much else to say about that, but that's fun.
Hoping to get him some carries.
That'd be fun too. Yeah, that'd be really good. Anything else on offense you want to highlight?
I don't think so. I thought Tyler Steen, it looked like he hung in there after Becton.
Yeah, I'll have to rewatch, but it seemed like he did fine.
Yeah, I think he's pretty
Becton
good.
With sunglasses on was there to greet all of his teammates as they came in. That was nice.
Yeah, it was just good to see him that he was, up and around. Mm-hmm. Just never know with those things. But light sensitivity is a big symptom of a concussion or a big product of concussion. So, I thought they really need Jordan Mailata back. I mean, it's going to be 3 more games.
And next week, I mean, you thought it was tough with Brian Burns. Well, guess what? Trey Hendrickson next week rushes on that side too. So, poor Fred Johnson gets his chance to play, and he's going against Brian Burns and Trey Hendrickson in back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, and Mr. Garrett last week at the end of that game. But, the effort's good. I just, you just hope he can keep it together for another few weeks.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the defense. We'll talk about special teams, and we'll take a look at this squad as they head to Cincinnati next week.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store at nissanusa.com today.
Celebrity cook Steve Martorano brings his Italian-American cooking back home to Philly. Enjoy Martorano's Prime at Rivers Casino and Steve's famous meatballs with Sunday gravy, prime steaks, and more. Make reservations at Martorano's Prime on Open Table. All right, Rube, let's talk some defense. And obviously, the opponent matters. We know that we saw a bad offense last week, a bad offense this week, but they're doing what they need to do against bad offenses.
Yeah, I don't care who the other team is. They're all professionals. And when you hold 2 straight teams to no offensive touchdowns, that's impressive stuff. And I don't know, what was the final total? What do they have, 117 yards or something? It was just some incredibly low
119.
total. 119. So sack yards come out of that. Sack yards are, count as net yards. So they had 105 passing, 76 rushing is 181. Then you subtract 62 from that to get total net yards. I think it's the 6th fewest the Eagles have allowed since 1950. Look, the Giants just had no attack. Drew Lock's not the answer. I don't know what you do if you're the Giants, because Daniel Jones, he can't play. He cannot play football. And it's crazy that he got sacked so much, because it's not like they're throwing the ball deep. What was his longest pass? 14 yards? That was their longest play. They didn't have a play longer than 14 yards. It was all dink and duck stuff, and they still sacked him 8 times. Or 7 times. One of them was Drew Lock. But he was awful, and they took advantage. And that's what you look for. You don't want to be there saying, man, we faced Daniel Jones. We couldn't get any sacks. 5 of the sacks from Georgia guys was interesting. 2 from Jacoby, 2 from Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, 2nd week in a row.
And a legit sack from Nolan.
That was a legit sack. It was his first really legit, quarterback. It wasn't like one of those quarterback fell down, you're the first guy to touch him.
And we talked about both left tackles being out in this game. It hurt the Giants more.
It did. It really did. Oh, he was terrible. But I like the fact that the sacks came from a lot of different guys. Bryce Huff had his first full sack. Jacoby had his first 2 full sacks of his career, had some nice blitzes. Sweat 3 games in a row with a sack now. So is everybody. Jalen Carter had 2 more. And he's starting to play pretty well. I thought the whole key was that they weren't able to run early, and they really put him in known pass a lot, and they were able to get after Daniel Jones, and he's not the kind of guy you want out there in known pass. And they took advantage, and they finished. They didn't just get near him; they finished, and that was big. It was, 6 sacks their first 4 games and 13 the last 2. It's their 2nd most sacks they've ever had in a 2-game span in history. So. I don't know if they can keep it up at that pace, but they have way too much talent on that defense to not get sacks. So the last 2 weeks have been really encouraging. Bad quarterback play, but good to see that kind of pressure.
Yeah, and it's like, even if the results are because of the bad offenses, I think it does help from a confidence perspective, especially for a guy like Bryce Huff, who he's going through it early in the season. Like, man, I got paid all this money. I'm not producing. They don't think I'm any good. Like, for him, it's helpful. For Nolan Smith, who's never really done it in the NFL, it's helpful. And for Josh Sweat, people were doubting Josh Sweat. Like, maybe this guy's just not the same anymore. Maybe he's lost a step. So to have 3 straight games with a sack is good for him. And look, I know people are yelling right now, like, but they played the Giants, and I get that. But that's who was out there today, and they played really well. I thought Jacoby, that he had that early missed tackle, and you're thinking,
yeah,
well, is this going to be a bad Jacoby game? And then he ends up doing some nice things.
Yeah. He's a really good blitzer. That the first sack, he was really clever the way he worked through traffic and got to the quarterback quick. He's been so up and down. You just want to see some consistency from him. But today was a good day for him.
Yeah, Zach Bond played all right, and then he got hurt. In this game, he suffered a shoulder injury, so we don't know much about that. He left early. In the secondary, like we mentioned, like not a lot of explosion out of that offense. Malik Neighbors is good. Gosh, if they didn't have Malik Neighbors, they'd be under 100 yards today.
What did he finish with, 41?
41. He worked hard for those 41.
He really did. 8 targets, 4 catches, 41 yards. He was our only receiver over 23 yards. Wan'Dale Robinson had 23 yards. Yeah, there's not a lot of firepower there. Wan'Dale Robinson caught 6 passes for 23 yards. That's like under 4 per catch.
That's Paris Campbellian.
Cambrian,
yeah.
It's such a joy watching Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper Dejean. I thought Slay played well too.
Slay did play well. People give Slay a lot of crap. He's out here battling through a knee. Like,
I mean, he limped off the field.
Yeah, he limped off the field. He came back and had a huge pass breakup.
Yeah.
In a game that, like, they already had a nice lead in. He didn't have to come back in this game.
Yeah.
Slay's been getting a lot of crap. And I get going on Micah Parsons' podcast is a bad look. I get that, like, him tweeting out his stats is obviously stupid when he did that, but he's still playing pretty well. He had a nice game today, and he's battling through injury to do it. So you kind of missed me with all the Slay hate for a little while.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. He's not the player he used to be, but he's still really good. He's still their second best outside cornerback. Quignon has missed 4 interceptions. I mean, that would have been a really tough one.
Yeah, the over the shoulder one.
Yeah, but it's a play that, some guys make that play.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell it's eating at him. I mean, it's got to be. He's going to get him. Cooper Dejean has made such a difference on this defense.
Such a short tackler.
Such a short tackler. He's short everything. It's a great word for him. He's just solid. Solid in coverage. He's physical. And he doesn't miss. I don't think he has a missed tackle since he started playing. I don't want to beat up on Avante. And Avante came in and had a pretty nice tackle on to keep somebody from a first down. But he's such an upgrade, Cooper Dejean. They've got some young talent on this team, and today we really saw it all. Come together. Yeah,
just with Quignon and Cooper Dejean, like, gosh, that's a lot of fun. I might be writing about those two guys this week, so keep an eye out for that. But to have those two young players on this defense, it makes it a lot of fun to watch. And it's not just like you see glimpses of what they could be; they're really good right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and people were comparing them, like, on social media to Lito and Sheldon, and I remind you, yeah, they were really good. Neither of them was a starter till their third year. The Eagles still had Bobby Taylor and Troy Vincent, and so those guys, by the time they started playing, they were in their third year, and they were really good. But these guys, they play. They've started a combined 8 games. They haven't played much, and they're only going to get better. And yeah, did they trade jerseys again?
I don't think they're going to do that every week.
Yeah, they're in good hands with those guys.
Anything else on defense? Jalen Hunt got his first sack, a legit sack too. It was late in the game, but
yeah, I never saw it. Was that the Drew Lock one? It looked like he just dropped
the football. No, I think Jalen popped it out.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It was cool, and it was cool to watch him come to the sideline and everyone mob him. Whenever a young player gets their first, like, big play, it's always worth watching how his teammates react. And honestly, like, it sounds hokey, but I think you can learn a lot about the fabric of a team by how they celebrate the accomplishments of a young player like that.
I think that's so true. And this team, all the connection stuff, gets kind of old and corny, but they're a pretty tight group, and you can see it watching them on the sideline when they're doing well and when they're not doing well.
Yeah. Anyone else on defense we have to highlight? It was nice to see some of the young kids come in. Trotter came in, got a couple tackles. Sidney Brown got to stay in the game and play some defense. So yeah, it was in a way, it was honestly, in a game like this, as great as it is for young players to get some time, getting your starters off this turf is a big deal. Like,
true.
Taking them off of this field for almost a quarter of the game. Yeah. That's huge. Yeah.
And they had some injuries. They got guys banged up, but they didn't have anybody suffer a turf related injury.
Yeah. This turf didn't snatch any ACLs today.
Right. And luckily, when that happens, it's a W. You feel happy to get out of there, but that's a good point.
Yeah. Anything else on defense you want to hit?
I don't think so.
Let's talk about Nick a little bit.
Yeah.
This had to be a weird week for Nick. And we talked about him on Tuesday. We had our Nick show and really went deep into it. But it's very clear that his players are still playing hard for him. They had a great week of practice. He said maybe the best week of practice they've had. And it showed out here. And, like, I know all the caveats are that this team stinks as they played, but I thought it was a big week for Nick Sirianni.
Yeah, I did as well. And I know it wasn't an easy week for him. And, he had to sit there and apologize on Monday. I know Jeff Lurie. We all assume Jeff Lurie wasn't thrilled with what went on. So he's got to deal with all that while also preparing his team for a big division game. And that's the one thing about Nick. Like, his players always play hard for him. And, people ask, like, is Lurie going to fire him? As long as they're winning and the guys are playing hard. I mean, he's not getting fired. They like him. And, the first half of the Tampa game was pretty bad, but you really never question their effort under Nick. And he gets through to them. And I think that's his biggest strength as a coach is his ability to get them motivated, get them up to play, and get the most out of them, and get them to play for each other and as a team instead of as individuals. And that's important. He's not a good play caller on either side of the ball, but he does have strengths. You don't get to 38-19, I think he is now, if you don't have strengths as a coach.
Yeah, thought it was a good week for him. Obviously, Vic called a good game defensively. Special teams, I don't want to completely leave out the third phase. They did some good things on special teams.
I thought Cooper Dejean's 28-yard punt return was...
And even before that, he showed some juice as a punt returner. He making something out of nothing.
And the 28-yarder, it wasn't like he had all this open turf in front of him. He was winding through traffic. He's physical. He's knocking people over. He returns punts the same way he plays slot, physically. He's inflicting inflicting punishment on guys. That was a heck of a play. It was a great effort. Covey's a different kind of guy. He's just quick and darts around. He's not going to run over anybody. It'd be interesting to see what happens when Covey does come back, because Cooper.
Yeah, we're too early for that, or is that?
No, could be in a couple of weeks. There's a roster spot, that you would have to account for, and maybe, I don't know if Cooper Dejean is probably about as good as Covey. Covey had a really good year doing it last year. But the one thing is, if he's going to be playing a ton of snaps, which he is, do you want him doing both? So there's a lot to consider there. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. Yeah.
They had Jake Elliott kick off one of them today, and then Brady Mann was doing the others. I don't know what the reasoning for that was. I can't wait to find out on Tuesday from Michael Clay.
Yeah.
Sidney Brown had a nice special teams tackle.
He sure did.
He got back in the scorebook at the same venue where he tore his ACL last year.
Right.
Kind of a fun moment for him. So he plays in his first game. After the locker room, he was getting ready to call his brother because his brother's game just ended. And they're not going to be able to talk much football for very long because they play the Bengals, and his twin brother Chase, is a running back for Cincinnati. So kind of a fun week coming up for the Brown family.
Yeah, it was good to have Sidney back. Nobody had a bigger smile on their face in the locker room this week than Sidney Brown. It's been a long time, so it was good to see him out there. And then you see flashes of what made him such a promising player last year as a rookie. And that special teams tackle was solo. It was really impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and eventually I think they can find him a role on defense. I don't think it's going to be a massive role because right now Reed Blankenship and C.J. Gardner-Johnson, no question, are the starters. But as a third safety or as the extra defensive back in the dime package, which is Avonte Maddox's role right now. Yep. And he's a bigger body they can use in the slot too. So I think Vic Fangio can kind of get creative with a Sidney Brown.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what they do with him. I would think he'd be the next man up probably by, now. I think he's the next best safety. So somebody gets hurt, I would think he would go in. I'm not sure he was quite ready for that just from a conditioning standpoint, but I think, he's been practicing for 2 weeks now, and I would think he'd be ready for that.
Some odds and ends here. This is our first pod. We didn't talk after Jordan Mailata went to IR. So that's more significant than I think some people were hoping for. When Nick Sirianni said a couple weeks, we were sure to make sure everyone knew that did not mean 2 weeks. And sure enough, it's at least 4 weeks now. They're going to miss him. They're going to try to piece this together. Dallas Goedert didn't go on IR, so somewhere before 4 weeks, they expect him back. We'll see if he can start the practice this upcoming week. That will be a big boost. And then I found it curious they did not elevate another tight end for this game. I don't really understand why. And then they came out in 12 personnel on the very first snap. And it became like such a big run game day.
Yeah.
A little surprised they didn't bring up another tight end.
That was a little surprising.
That's all I've got. Some odds and ends there.
Okay.
It was sunny today at MetLife Stadium.
Doesn't happen very often.
I think this is the first time in years that I've seen the sunshine here.
Yeah, it's the kind of place that, you could be driving up the turnpike and it's this beautiful day. You park and it's gorgeous, sun-splashed Bergen County morning. And as soon as you get in the stadium, it's like dark, foreboding clouds everywhere. I'm glad I don't have to go there anymore.
Yeah, it's not the best stadium. But you know what was the best today? At halftime, they did corgi races.
Oh, really?
Yep. Here's the winner.
Of course, you have a screenshot of it.
Yeah, I mean, look how happy that dog is. That dog is a champion corgi race winner.
Look how big that dog is compared to all those people. And that dog is like 12 rows of people.
Yeah.
That's like Clifford right there. You wouldn't know the reference. You know Clifford, the big red dog?
Of course I know Clifford. Yeah.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. So congratulations to that dog. Didn't catch the dog's name, but.
You don't have video?
I do have video, but the Wi-Fi is crapping out a little bit here.
All right. Maybe Tuesday we can see that.
Okay. Yeah, I do. Of course I took video. Have you met me? I had to go to the bathroom so bad at halftime, but I'm like, wait a second. These corgis are running right now.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. You got any final words here?
My favorite halftime ever was, it wasn't good for the Eagles, but it was in Baltimore when Donovan got benched, and everybody else, they had the best food at their stadium. They have crab cakes at halftime. So the entire media went to get crab cakes, and I'm sitting there seeing Kevin Cobb warming up after halftime. And it was before Twitter, so I couldn't tweet it out.
You were just starting to yell at people?
I told Tom Hecker, the GM, I was like, I think Donovan's getting benched. He's like, no. I said, look, Kevin's warming up and Donovan doesn't have a helmet. It's like, oh. And yeah. And then Ed Reed took him, what was 100 and the longest interception return in history, right? 109 yards or something. Yeah. Anyway, no, we'll be back with much more this week, and have a safe drive back.
Thank you. If you have,
watch out for lightning.
I will try it. I will never escape that. People always say that when I come up here. But if you have a question for us, I have that popped up on the screen. It's eagleeye@nbcuni.com. If you have your phone ready, you can scan that QR code. We've been getting a lot of questions after bad games and bad moments. I'm curious to see if we get a lot of questions after a really big win or if it dries up.
It's been a while since we've had one, so
you're right.
We shall see.
And this is where I tell everyone, if you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe there as well. We'll be back with you on Tuesday. For Reuben, I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan. We'll talk to you soon.